With the introduction of one of the largest patches in Valorant history, it's only right that we have to make a tier list to reflect all the agent changes within the game. When I say that this patch 3.0 changed everything, I mean everything, because all 15 agents either got a nerf, buff, or both in some way, shape, or form. Not to mention that KO's introduction means that gameplay in Valorant is going to become much more bare bones and reliant on gunplay very often. What's going on, ProGuides family? It is your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we have the Valorant patch 3.0 tier list for you guys. There are going to be a lot of changes, so let's dive into where your favorite agent will rank on the list. A quick disclaimer, since this is the first patch of the new episode, Riot is trying to shake up the game as much as possible for the rest of the year. So that means we will have to see how a lot of these agent changes play out in game. With that being said, this tier list is only our predictions and us theorizing at how the agents will fare in this brand new meta. Now, let's jump right into the S tier. Starting off at the top of the S tier, we have the brand new Agent 16, KO. I know usually most people would not put a brand new agent into the S tier when they are released because we don't know how that agent will truly play in game. But out of all the post-launch agents that have been added into the game, KO is the exception. KO is in the S tier because he has introduced a new CC mechanic into Valorant that will certainly change the way we play the game forever. Suppress is the new kid on the block in the CC department, and I think it will make gameplay a lot more bare bones for lack of a better word. A good KO player will be able to throw his knife into a high traffic area, and anyone that is caught in the suppress zone will have to rely on their aim to get them out of that situation alive. KO's kit is built around the suppress mechanic, as it is his signature ability and one of the main components of his ultimate. While we're talking about his kit, let's not neglect how strong his other two abilities are. Riot gave us two traditional flashbangs and a grenade that functions like a damage over time molly. These two abilities will allow KO to act as a pseudo entry frag because of how much space he can create for his team by CCing them with his utility. KO is going to heavily enable his teammates around him, so it's going to be interesting to see what agents will work the best with him in game. I think the future is bright for KO as he will definitely become a staple in the meta as soon as he goes live, but I would be cautious not to rely on him too heavily because if his suppress mechanic turns out to be too broken and oppressive in game, you can bet that Riot will be quick to nerf it and bring him back in line. For how strong Viper is as an agent currently, us Viper mains should be grateful that Riot did not nerf her harder than they already did. In this patch, only Viper's mollies got touched. Her snakebite now costs 200 credits per charge, and they decreased its duration from 8 seconds to 6.5 seconds. They also made the edges of the snakebite more consistent with how it applies damage, which is great for her post-plant lineups. It's safe to say that the other controllers got changed a lot more than Viper did in this patch, which means that she isn't going anywhere in the meta. This snakebite change was only meant to nerf her post-plant lineup oppressiveness. Along with several other utility-based agents, Viper's dual molly capabilities quickly created an annoying post-plant meta that many players don't want to deal with. Viper as an agent is still stronger than ever, and since Astra and Omen received a few unfavorable changes, Viper has earned her spot in the S tier for the time being. Closing out the S tier, Jett is hanging on to that final spot in the S tier moving forward into episode 3. While Jett did get hit with a few price change nerfs to her smoke and updraft, she also got her ultimate point cost increased from 6 to 7, and she was also nerfed through the Cypher tripwire changes. In my opinion, she is still going to be viable in this new meta. KO is going to be an agent that will enable his teammates by throwing his abilities into a site to incapacitate enemies. This will help Jett because she will be able to use her mobility to capitalize on that small time window of when she can take advantage of her CC'd enemies. This new meta that KO could create will allow agents with mobility to shine. Jett will be at the forefront of this mobility meta, because her dash allows her to quickly move in and neutralize all the targets that KO has suppressed or flashed inside of a site. Also, a huge thing to note is that the operator is going to be getting a price decrease inside of this patch. Now that the operator is a cheaper gun overall, Jett now has easier access to her famous weapon of mass destruction. Jett was being utilized a lot in episode 2 because of her mobility and ability to create space. Now that the operator is going to become a meta gun again with its price decrease, watch out for posted up Jetts who will be taking advantage of the cheaper long rifle. Episode 3 is finally here, and now is the perfect time to get ahead of the competition and train yourself to become the best player you can be today. If you are interested in getting some specialized help to allow you to achieve those goals, head over to our website ProGuides.com. We have Radiant and Immortal level coaches who are more than happy to lend you a helping hand with improving your gameplay as fast and efficiently as possible. We also have courses written by the pro players Sentinels 10s and Team Liquid Scream, where they will teach you the fundamentals of Valorant and how to master the Duelist class. If any of this interests you, head over to ProGuides.com to get a head start on improving today. Now let's move into the A tier. Sova got hit with some very unfavorable price nerfs to his abilities this patch, but it will take a lot more than ability price increases to kick the pride of Mother Russia out of the Valorant meta. Sova's kit became more expensive because Riot wanted to make Sova players think twice before spamming his abilities. While his economy did become a little bit more expensive, his gameplay is still very much intact and unchanged after this patch. In reality, he will still be able to do everything he used to do in-game regarding deploying his utility. It's just going to cost him a little bit more per round in order for him to continue to do it. Riot was trying to take aim at the post-plant meta this patch, and that is why they increased his shock darts cost, and it's why they increased his ultimate point cost as well. It's also worth mentioning that his intel gathering was targeted as well. His drone now costs 400 credits up from 300, and his recon bolt recharge time has been increased to 40 seconds up from 35. These price changes brought Sova out of the S tier for episode 3, but he is still at the top of A tier because of how well his kit performs in-game. Killjoy got a few nerfs to her cooldown timers on 2 of her most used abilities. Both her turret and her alarm bot got their cooldowns after pickup increased to 20 seconds universally. This nerf won't hit her too hard because if you're just picking up your bots to rotate around the map, the 20 seconds won't really be noticeable at all. This change is only felt if you're the type of player that likes to continuously pick up her bots during gunfights and reposition them to get them to target the enemy. Outside of those rare circumstances, these changes aren't going to hurt Killjoy too much, and she will still be a staple in the meta as one of the best defensive agents in the game. Killjoy is getting a little bit of competition at the start of this episode though. Cypher has received several buffs that may make him appealing to Sentinel mains, so she is going to have some competition in the meta moving forward. Skye got quite a few changes to start off episode 3. She is up here for several reasons, and that is because her main abilities got buffs and nerfs. Her flashes got reworked where each of her birds now costs 250 credits up from 100, and she starts off with 2 birds now instead of 3. But now, after 40 seconds, she continuously gets new flashes to use throughout the round. She also no longer needs to re-equip to trigger her flash, and the audio attenuation when cast has been reduced from 3,250 units to 1,250. The changes Skye also received to her Trailblazer make it slightly more expensive, but it also has become a much better scouting tool because its vision radius has been increased and its concussion duration has been extended as well. Skye is in a good position right now because her utility got a few nerfs, but it works much better overall for her. She now has the potential to get up to 5 flashes if the spike is planted during a round, and her Trailblazer has become a much more reliable and consistent scouting tool to use in game. Skye is definitely in a good place right now in the meta, and she's deserving of her spot in the A tier. Reyna did receive a nerf this patch by getting her Lear's price increased to 250 credits, but she has moved up into the A tier for a very different reason despite her nerfs. Reyna is up here because of the meta KO is inevitably going to create in the game. Now that the suppressed meta is on the horizon, Reyna as an agent will be able to shine by taking gunfights on targets that KO has suppressed. She is the best duelist to run in front of KO because she doesn't have to worry about dealing with the excess utility when she entries now. Reyna can swing a corner and kill a suppressed target and immediately either heal or dismiss to reposition and do it again. Reyna is a big fan of this gunplay focused meta because she can work so well with KO and his utility when it comes to killing incapacitated enemies. Closing out the A tier is Cypher, and while it feels weird to say, he is the only true winner in patch 3.0. Cypher is the only agent to get only buffs and not nerfs. His ult point cost got reduced from 7 to 6, and Jet can no longer dash to break through his tripwires. While these changes aren't truly game-changing, they are very nice quality of life buffs that give Sentinel mains a reason to start considering Cypher again, instead of just defaulting to Killjoy. Cypher's on the up and up right now, and since his competition in Killjoy, Sage, and Astra got hit with nerfs, it will be fun to see if the devs keep buffing him to see if he can rise higher into the A tier. Now let's move into the B tier. Starting off the B tier, we have Sage. Sage did not get hit too hard by her nerfs this patch. Her slow and wall orbs both got their price increased by 100, and her ult now costs 8 points instead of 7. In my opinion, all these price changes to Sage were justified. She has some of the most reliable and consistent abilities when it comes to stalling and rerouting enemies, so it's only fair that she gets an ability price increase to balance out her power level. I know that a lot of people aren't fans of her ult point cost going up, but you have to remember, having the power to turn around into a 6v5 is priceless when a match is on the line, so the point cost increase is totally justified. I think Sage will be completely fine in the meta regardless of her price changes this patch, as she is one of the most resilient agents currently in the game after all. Breach finally might be out of the gutters in episode 3. He had an entire retooling of all the abilities in his kit, and I think he is better off because of it. The only ability in his kit that got straight nerfs was his flashpoint. His flashes are losing a charge, bringing the count down to 2, and the price is being increased to 250 credits. Also, to add insult to injury, the flash travel speed is being decreased from 2,500 to 2,000. But on the bright side, Breach's Fault Line, Aftershock, and Rolling Thunder all got significant mechanical changes and buffs. I can't wait to see how Breach fares in this new meta, instead of being forced to be the agent that would dump all of his flashes to get into a site. Maybe he can now focus on what his kit was designed to do, and that is CC and reroute his enemies. His Fault Line and Rolling Thunder became a lot more powerful when they increased the width of both abilities, and his Fault Line is now much more consistent with how much easier they made it to use. I think Breach could potentially move up into the A tier in the future if he ends up fitting into the game's new meta pretty well. He now has the potential to be a consistent contributing member to his team, and I think that will make him a lot more of an enticing pick for teams that want to go heavy on the CC. The potential combos KO and Breach could pull off when enemies are suppressed is unthinkable, and it could create an entire meta by themselves. Even though he did receive some nerfs to his best ability this patch, I think Breach will still find ways to excel in-game. Like we said in our leaks video last week, Omen has not been having a fun time the past few months. First, he gets nerfs to his flash and smokes in January of this year. Then, he gets fired from his job of being the primary main smoker in the meta when Astra and rework Viper were introduced into the game. Now, he's getting even more nerfs, and while many people aren't a fan of them, it might not be all bad for the former best controller. Since Astra is becoming weaker, Omen is next up in terms of being able to do a controller's duty in-game. One of the main reasons he disappeared in Acts 2 and 3 of Episode 2 was because Astra was straight up better than him when she first came out. Now that Astra has been nerfed this patch, the playing field is now even between both of them. Viper is on top, Astra and Omen are still fighting for the number 2 spot, and Brimstone still sits at the bottom. In terms of gameplay, Omen might be favored in a mobility meta that KO could possibly create. His semi-duelist-like kit makes it so that he has more options to stop and execute before it starts. Or he can pull off aggressive plays to break up the map before an execute is even formed. I think that even though Omen got a few price increase nerfs, a potential new mobility meta and the fall of Astra could open up an opportunity for him to become semi-viable again. When it comes to Phoenix, we have to be honest. KO is looking to be a better version of him in more ways than one. KO has better flashes than him, his molly can be thrown way further and does more consistent damage, and his ultimate provides him with more combat value than Phoenix does. So far, Phoenix is going to have a rough time at the start of Episode 3. He got hit with the universal flash price increase, and KO is coming for his staple spot in the meta. I think since Phoenix is starting to be outclassed by multiple other flash-based agents, he's going to have a tough time vying for players' attention now that KO has been added into the game. He isn't an awful pick by any means, but having more variety in the meta is good for us players but bad for Phoenix, who was an uncontested meta pick in the game for a very long time. I'm not gonna lie, Astra is a little down bad right now at the start of Episode 3. The Riot devs didn't like how oppressive she was, especially on defense the past few months. So they decided to do something about it. They took away one of her starting stars, and they doubled the cooldown timer on her Gravity Well, Nova Pulse, and the recall for her stars. Astra now has to be a lot more conservative with how she uses her stars, and that will definitely slow down her ability spam in-game. The community has been asking for ways to have counterplay against Astra, and the devs finally gave it to us. I don't think these nerfs are enough to kick her out of the meta completely for good, but a lot of people will be hesitant to run Astra now that she is not as strong as she once was. Let's now transition into the C tier. Now, if there is one agent who truly got the short end of the stick this patch, we're gonna have to give that award to Raze. Unlike Astra, Raze is very down bad with the nerfs that she got this patch. Her boombot's price has been doubled from 200 to 400, and her ultimate point cost is now 8 instead of 7. If you do the math, her boombot being 400 credits means that you'll be spending an extra 2,000 to 4,000 credits per match, depending on the number of rounds played, exclusively just to buy her boombot. This is an integral part of her kit, so it's going to be hard to avoid this price nerf, and most Raze players are just going to end up bearing the brunt of the economic damage it's going to cause. Say goodbye to boombots on pistol rounds, because its new price will literally make that one of the worst economic decisions in the game of all time. Raze was an agent that needed help because she was being outclassed by the other duelists. Riot did the opposite of what we expected, and they nerfed her even harder. Talk about kicking somebody while they're down, Riot. It's not much of a surprise, but Brimstone is down in C tier to start Episode 3. He got a nerf to his molly this patch, and while that won't stop him from buying it every round, it's taking a shot at him being a part of the post-plant meta by making it harder for him to economically buy a molly every single round. If you're winning and your economy is good, you won't feel this nerf at all. But if you're losing and you have to keep saving every other round, that extra 50 credits on his molly will add up and will take a toll on your money pool for sure. Finally, let's wrap this up with Yoru. Just like Raze, Riot is nerfing an agent that desperately needs help at the moment. Yoru is almost laughable with how bad he is in-game at the moment. Riot decided to nerf his gate crash cooldown timer, and they hit his flashes with the universal flash price nerf. I don't think we should care too much about how they are treating Yoru, because Riot already told us that they are planning to do an actual complete rework on him sometime in the future, so it might not be too long before he becomes a completely new agent. Time will tell though, and until that rework comes through, he is still the worst agent in the game, full stop. Well, that was a whole lot to go through in one video. If you enjoyed this tier list, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest Valorant news, updates, and guides. Also, make sure to check out our website for truly amazing on-demand coaching. This has been your host, Sergeant Frost, and good luck on the grind this episode.